I hope you enjoyed Patricia Polacco reading about when her grandmother made her no longer afraid of thunder with Thunder Cake. And we're going to actually look at Patricia as a character, even though she's a real person, because it's a memoir. And a memoir is a type of autobiography in which a person writes about one of their memories. If you can see, in a memoir, the word, you kind of see the beginning of the word memory, so that's an easy way to remember someone telling you one of their memories. Anyway, we can still do the characterization because the story is told as a narrative, so it's like an actual story, and it has a first-person narrator who is the character, Patricia, who we're going to be talking about. Just for this part, on this fast characterization page, it's going to say cite 2 to 3 pieces of evidence from the text that shows the important character traits expressed on how he or she feels, acts, says, and thinks. And I went ahead and put in the parts from the story right here. I only copied in 2 of them, just so you would know that whenever we cite, we're taking directly from the story. And so I put mainly that she's afraid. So through most of the text, Patricia is afraid. She hides under the bed because she's afraid of the sound of thunder more than anything. And then when she leaves to get the ingredients with Grandma to go make the thunder cake, she keeps on repeating how scared she is every time she has to accomplish the task. She's scared of old Nellie Peckhen. She's afraid of the old kick cow when it looks mean at her. She's afraid when she's walking to the dry shed. And she repeats over and over how scared she is. So one of her traits we could say is that she has fear. The second thing we look at is how a character acts. And again, it says cite 2 to 3 pieces of evidence from the text, and I don't know how well you can read it. I know it might look blurry up on the screen, but when we're looking at actions, it's just what the character does. And I think I already actually said this, but the action that she does to show that she's scared, how she feels, is to hide under the bed. This isn't a direct quote from the text. I didn't take actual words, but one of the things that Patricia does throughout the whole story is that she does every single task her grandma asks her to do. After she's done all of these things that her grandmother asks her to do, by the end of the book, she actually smiles and eats thunder cake. And with that, I can actually add another feeling for the end. Remember when we go in the beginning, this is how the character is. In the middle, this is how the character is. And at the end, this is what the character is like, feels, does, says, and those things. We can actually add that she's no longer afraid at the end of this story when she eats the cake, and that would be a feeling, so I had to go back and put it in the feelings. For the says section, you have to make sure that it's something that the character does actually say. And since Patricia's the first person narrator, she really says everything, but we're going to look at dialogue for this part. This is in response to her grandma saying that she is a very brave person for doing all of the things that she did. Patricia says, "I'm not brave, Grandma. Remember, I was hiding under the bed when I heard the thunder." So that's something that she says about herself, that she is not brave, which reinforces the fact that we can describe her or characterize her as afraid. For the thoughts piece, that is what we can kind of tie in with feelings. It's what the character thinks about their situation or even about other characters or themselves. And there's several parts in which Patricia not only says I was scared, but she says I knew this would turn out badly. So I'm going to cite those incidents. So here I've tried to describe Patricia's thinking. I've already said that She keeps saying over and over and over that she knew something bad would happen. And on the page where she climbs to get the tomatoes, she says, I climbed up high on the trellis. The ground looked a long way down. I was scared. And the grandma actually replies, you won't fall. And giving her encouragement to show that she can climb. But by having those lines together, we can tell that Patricia thinks she's going to fall. And at the very end of the book, her thinking changes because of her grandmother, because she says, I thought and thought as the storm rumbled closer. She was right. I am brave, because she did do all of those things, and she thought about doing those things. And because she did, she was brave. The bottom of your fast characterization page says, explain or discuss if you think the character is dynamic or static, and explain why. Remember that a dynamic character matures or changes during the plot of a story, but a static character doesn't mature or change during the plot. So what you have to do is say, did Patricia change her attitude or what she believes in or how she acts from the beginning of the story to the end of the story? And you're either going to say, yes, she did change, or no, she didn't. In the case of Patricia and Thundercake, I'm going to say that yes, Patricia changes. So my answer for this explanation or discussion is that Patricia is a dynamic character because she overcame her fear of thunder. She did this by helping her grandma bake Thundercake. And I didn't type this, but I'm about to add it, and gather all of the ingredients. So now I've explained why I think Patricia's dynamic. Now what we need to talk about is whether or not the character roles have been explained. This will be on the back of your page. There is a tree map that looks like this. We can talk about character roles in terms of characters who pursue or do the major part of the action. Pursue is another way to say chase, so they're going after something. There's characters who help. Oftentimes these are the sidekicks. We talked about this with the Alfred effect yesterday. There's characters who hinder, and sometimes a character is really a force, because when we have something that is hindering a character from doing something, then that's where our conflict is created. And then we also have characters who avoid certain situations. And I think we can plug in several different things for this tree map, and I'm just going to show you my thinking for Thundercake. For the first part of this explanation, at the very beginning of this story, the character who avoids is actually Patricia because she's hiding under the bed, and the hindrance, or the reason she's hiding under the bed, the problem that she has is the sound of thunder. So that's why thunder is actually under hinder. And then we have Grandma, who helps her overcome her avoidance or her fear of the thunder. But what's interesting is after the exposition, or the first part of the story, Patricia comes out of the bed, comes out from underneath the bed. Patricia stops avoiding, and she becomes a pursuer, and so does Grandma, because all of a sudden they're pursuing their need to gather ingredients for Thundercake. So we can actually see the change that Patricia goes through in Thundercake and knows that Grandma will always be there to help her, and she's there for her every single step of the way, so she helps her face each fear that she comes across. So Grandma really also stays as a helper. That's why I drew the arrow. I hope that you paid very close attention. You're going to get a copy of the paper for fast characterization, and you're going to complete it with the character of your choice from your book. Thanks.